Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Monday here on this Sports IQ, and oh my goodness, what a weekend. This is just crazy. So much good football. We'll talk here in a little bit about Georgia Tech. You know, we saw all the upsets, 3 undefeated top 10 teams falling. LSU also was 10th. They fell. So 4 teams in the AP top 10 all losing. So a huge shakeup. No surprise. Ohio State, Indiana 1 and 2, but it's kind of funny. Here's how much everyone kind of agrees with who the best teams in college football are. In the 2 polls, the AP and the coaches, both top 9s are identical. So we'll talk more college football here in a moment. But Chad Bishop from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution will be joining us to talk Georgia Tech football. The Yellow Jackets, big win at Duke this weekend. And so they are now going to be, they're 7-0 and ranked 7th in the country. We'll talk about them and their chances now. All of a sudden, the Yellow Jackets possibly getting into the college football playoff. But that's football. We'll talk more college football later. How about baseball playoffs, the LCS? We still don't know the 2 teams in the World Series, but we will tonight. Toronto and Seattle, Game 7 north of the border for a chance to meet the LA Dodgers in the World Series. Last night in Toronto, all Blue Jays, they hammered Seattle starter Logan Gilbert for 5 runs, including homers from Addison Barger and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the latter chasing Gilbert from the game with no outs in the 5th inning. On the mound, rookie Troy Yasavage was handling business. He went 5 2/3, struck out 7, gave up just 2 runs in the game. He also got help from his defense, which turned not 1, but 2 double plays to get out of bases-loaded jams. That made Toronto the first team to induce consecutive bases-loaded inning-ending double plays in a postseason game, and only the 4th team to turn in a single playoff game, to turn 2 double plays in a single playoff game. Meanwhile, the Mariners' gloves all seem to have issues as they made a season-high 3 errors, including 2 in the 2nd inning that led to 2 Toronto runs. So the Blue Jays have played 2 Game 7s in their history. One was a Game 7 ALCS loss to the Royals. But meanwhile, for the Mariners, it is uncharted territory. They have never played a Game 7. A win tonight, they reached their first ever World Series and become the last Major League Baseball team to do that. We cannot wait. Again, the Dodgers, defending champions, sitting back, just hanging out, enjoying themselves on the beach, getting ready for whoever's going to come up next in the World Series. Okay. NFL, another exciting Sunday of action. The biggest, though, provided by the Denver Broncos. Did you see this game? It's crazy. For 3 quarters, the Giants defense and a clean performance by the Giants offense had the G-men up 19-0 going into the 4th. But again, you play 4 quarters. You play 60 minutes. Denver scored 33 points in the 4th quarter, including Will Lutz's 39-yard field goal as time expired to give the Broncos the improbable 33-32 win. The comeback snapped a streak in which NFL teams had won 1,602 consecutive games when leading by 18 points in the final 6 minutes of a game, and that was a score. It was 26-8 at one point. The Giants looked like they had stolen the victory away when rookie Jackson Dart scored from the 3 with 31 seconds left in the game. Denver, no timeouts, but the Giants kicker missed his 2nd extra point of the day. That gave the Broncos one last chance. A couple of Bo Nix passes. Later, it was time for Lutz to deliver the final blow to the Giants with his foot. What a crazy, crazy game in Denver. Elsewhere, the Eagles put back-to-back losses in the rearview mirror by beating the Vikings 28-22. Jalen Hurts throwing for 326 yards and 3 scores. The defense returned a Carson Wentz interception for a pick 6, and the Eagles back in the win column. Micah Parsons showed why the Packers traded for him before the season. Parsons had a career-high 3 sacks in the day. Josh Jacobs had a 1-yard touchdown run with 1:50 left to lift the Pack to the 27-23 win. And by the way, their first road win of the season. Hey, if you are one of the Chiefs haters out there who are counting out the 3-time Super Bowl champs, the Chiefs just said, hold my beer. Listen, get over it. Kansas City, I know you hate them because they win and Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, whatever. I don't care. You get over it because Kansas City, they're a really good football team and they know how to win. They just dominated Las Vegas in every phase of the game, blowing out the Silver and Black 31-0. Patrick Mahomes threw for 286 yards and 3 scores Rice saw his first action of the season. The suddenly healthy Chiefs look like contenders again. Rice, by the way, 7 catches, 42 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. And he gives the Chiefs that dynamic weapon they really had been missing. They were so systematic. They had 3 drives in the first half, scored touchdowns on all 3, and I believe went 80 yards on all 3. I mean, it was a clinic that they put on against the Raiders. It was almost like a scrimmage for them. Kansas City, I don't care what their record is. Listen, they're a team if you do not want to face in January. If they're healthy, they're as dangerous as anybody right now. 2 of the surprise teams of the season winning on Sunday. For Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel, a sweet homecoming. Drake May threw for 222 yards and 2 touchdowns. Patriots beating Tennessee 31-13 Sunday. It was Vrabel's first game against a franchise that fired him in January of last year. Hey, New England's now won 4 in a row after starting 1-2, and all of a sudden it's the Patriots sitting atop the AFC East. Also, a welcome back time for Colts Shane Steichen, who is a coach for the Chargers before getting the head coaching job in Indy. The Colts give him a big welcome back gift, earning their NFL leading 6th win, 38-24 over the Chargers behind Jonathan Taylor's 3rd 3-touchdown game of the season. Daniel Jones, meanwhile, throwing for 288 and 2 scores. By the way, on Taylor's 3 TD runs, he was untouched going into the end zone. The Colts, we've talked before, what an incredible story. 6-1, the best record in the NFL. Who saw that coming? The Cowboys had no trouble with Washington, 44-22. The most interesting note about this game was from Cowboys kicker Brandon Aubrey, as he became the first NFL kicker with 5 field goals from at least 60 yards. He kicked a 61-yarder in the second quarter. It's becoming routine for him. His 47-yard field goal in the first quarter put Dallas ahead for good at 10-8 after the Commanders had gone ahead on a safety when Williams was tackled in the end zone and Zach Ertz's 6-yard touchdown catch as well. So, but don't look now. Anyway, so that's the story there. The Cowboys getting the win, and it did a dramatic fashion. I believe the 3rd time this season they've scored 40 points or more. But the defense came through this time and did a nice job for Dallas. Hey, don't look now. The Bears are on a roll. Former Saints head coach getting a little payback of his own on Sunday. The Bears defensive coordinator saw his D hold the Saints to just 253 yards of total offense and forced 4 turnovers, including 3 picks of Spencer Rattler, as the Bears won their 4th in a row, 26-14 over New Orleans. Listen, Chicago, it has been a long, long time. We've talked before, since they fired Lovie Smith more than a decade ago, just 1 double-digit win season in Chicago in over a decade. And yet again, they've won 4 straight. It seems like they've begun to kind of put things together there in the Windy City. In some other action, the Rams blowing out the Jags 35-7 in Wembley Stadium in London. So there are more games coming up overseas, but that's the last game in London. Still more, though, in other European cities coming up here later on this season. The Panthers did just enough to beat the hapless and winless Jets 13-6. They moved to 4-3 on the season. Quinshon Judkins scored 3 touchdowns as Cleveland made it look easy against Miami 31-6. Boy, the Dolphins just 1-6 right now. Nothing going right. Tua was benched in the 4th quarter. They have a lot of issues in Miami. Thank goodness you've got South Beach in the sun. Otherwise, it is really some cloudy, gloomy days right now down there in South Florida. Hey, the 49ers on Sunday night brought the Falcons and their fans back to reality. A 20-10 win over Atlanta in that game. How about Mac Jones coming through? He's got some guys healthy now. Brock Purdy's still out with that turf toe situation. But Mac Jones, former starter in New England, started some games in Jacksonville, came here as a backup, and all of a sudden he's got this Niners team right now sitting at 5-2 and a team that quite possibly, again, could make some noise here later on in the season. Give credit to Kyle Shanahan and his staff for putting this together and did a great job against Atlanta last night. Okay, we've got much more to come right here. The college football news, and yes, more coaches fired. We'll talk about the new wave of college football. What have you done for me lately? Not even a bowl game is going to save you the next year. We'll talk about it next on the Sports IQ.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Back here with some college football news now. Another great week of college football. And also another not so great week for coaches. Getting the axe before the season is over. The painful Billy Napier watch finally coming to an end on Sunday. Despite winning Saturday over Mississippi State, the Gators and the brass there at the university pulling the trigger that many have been expecting for weeks, letting Napier go after a 3-4 start to the 2025 season. So he goes 22 wins, 23 losses, a tenure that truly never got out of neutral despite high hopes entering his fourth year at the program. They came through last year, had that gauntlet. They ended up going 8-5, a lot of promise this year. And last year, 2024, we thought he would make it past that year, but he did. The 46-year-old Napier has been on a near perpetual hot seat over the last couple of years, again, with only last season's win streak offering a brief reprieve. So the Gators now have 5 games remaining on the schedule, including rivalry showdowns with Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida State. Napier finishes with a winning percentage of .489. That is the worst by a Florida coach since 1949. Wow. Wide receivers coach Billy Gonzalez will be Florida's interim coach. Meanwhile, Jay Norvell, yes, Jay Norvell, not Mike Norvell, Jay Norvell has been let go after Colorado State lost their 4th straight of the season to Hawaii Saturday night. Norvell finishing his Colorado State stint with an 18-26 overall record as coach, including 13-13 in the Mountain West Conference. So the Rams will have a new head man when they head to the reformed Pac-12 next season. So again, the coaching carousel this winter is going to be, producer Tony, just insane. I mean, we thought that Florida might pull the trigger, but to pull it now, and I guess Napier was booed coming off the field after a win. I guess that was kind of the final nail in his coffin.
Yeah, I think, these boosters get together and they talk every week. You know that they do. You know that they have text chains going during games and whatnot. And if they're not liking what they're seeing, if they're not feeling the vibe, especially at a home game, man, you get in trouble in a hurry, the way college football is now. They just, you can't sit around and wait for guys to, build a program. The days of a guy getting 5-6 years to build a program, that's over.
Yeah.
You got to come in and you got 3 years tops to get done what they expect you to get done and get it to where they need it. And look, Napier got a little bit of a reprieve, got a little extra time last year because of that late season win streak and seemed to be going places, especially with DJ Lagway. Now you got to wonder, can Florida hang on to DJ Lagway? It'll probably depend on who they bring in. I would imagine it would be an offensive-minded person because he's the key player on your team. Your defense is solid, and your offense has got to improve. So there's going to be some names tossed out there, and that's a plum job, right, Larry? I mean, look, it's Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Florida, it's SEC, it's tradition. It is deep pocketed boosters. The recruiting hotbed in the country. You can argue about Florida. I mean, you argue about Georgia and California, but Florida. I mean, every coach worth their salt is investing a lot of money in recruiting Florida, and that's always when I was there 30 plus years ago. I mean, I would go to do a story on a high school kid, and I'd bump into a guy from, here's a guy from Florida State. Here's a guy from Boston College. Here's a guy from Ohio State. I mean, here's Kansas State. I mean, they would go everywhere. And so, yeah, but you're right there. You've got the recruiting pipelines, everything else. But, my concern is that in terms of the thing is Napier was the guy, right? He was the hot name coming out. And you take a chance on these guys. Look, the payout is there. If you don't get it done, I think his buyout is a $20 million check they wrote to him.
Yeah, I think it was like a $21 million check.
Yeah,
along those lines.
So if you're one of those guys, you take a shot at. If you don't make it, you're set for life if you choose. But I think my concern with all these coaches is, okay, so Penn State, Virginia Tech, UCLA, now Florida. We're just seeing a headline this morning. Florida State's going to wait until after the season on Mike Norvell to see what he happens. We haven't talked about that. Florida State, Tommy Castellano gets leveled in just a horrific targeting play. He's knocked out of the game in the second half. Florida State losing at Stanford, so they now have lost 9 straight ACC games. The goodwill that they had in beating Alabama, number 8 team in the country at the time, in the season opener in Tallahassee, that currency's been spent. And, so Florida State's going from a team that was, again, reached the top 10, and right now the question is, will they reach a bowl? My point is, with all these programs already having openings, that's regardless of who takes those jobs, and the coaching carousel is going to be crazy. And how much money do you spend? If you're spending $48 million Penn State, you're spending $20 million Florida, Kentucky once Mark Stoops out, that's a $30 million check. It's not just that check. You've got to then get severance for all the other guys that are out, or whatever their arrangement is, and then spend millions to bring in the next head coach and his staff. That's not including facilities, not including what you need to run a program. It's not including NIL packages and those kinds of things.
Right. I mean, there is a lot of money in college football, but it's not an endless supply, right? There's a finite surplus of cash, and the carousel is going to be crazy because, look, you've got some of the best jobs in the country opening up. Penn State, Florida, UCLA, maybe on the fringe of that best job. But if Florida State somehow comes open and that job isn't opening, who knows what's going to happen? Do somebody try to pluck Sarkisian from Texas? You know that somebody's going to be making a play for Kiffin down at Ole Miss, to get him somewhere a little bigger. Who knows what might happen at Michigan? I don't think Sharon Moore's job is completely safe. How plum of a job would it be if Michigan came open this year? So there's going to be all kinds of jobs. Look, if you're Virginia, if you're Georgia Tech, if you're one of these schools, if you're Vandy and you've had all this success and you got coaches, if you're a booster, enjoy it now. Enjoy the ride, because some of these guys ain't going to be there come next year. They're not. Somebody's going to come in and offer them a bag of cash, and it's going to be a big bag of cash to come coach at their school. You know, because who gets those plum jobs? It's the up and comers. It's the guys who've shown they can do it, especially at places like Georgia Tech. You're winning at Vandy and Virginia. You must know something about coaching.
Well, and it's kind of what I was getting to, is that for me, I don't know if you grab a Sumrall from Tulane to go to Michigan or Penn State, right? I mean, if you're already spending millions, but I'm reading the ESPN story, they're saying that all told, the ESPN report says all told, if the Florida State walks away from Mike Norvell, they will owe about $72 million to Norvell and his staff. $72 million. That's before you bring in the next coach and his staff. So, but imagine a world in which Michigan, Penn State, Florida, Florida State, and UCLA are all open in the same cycle.
Right. And you're not even counting the smaller jobs. Look, Colorado State is now open. There's a couple of the smaller jobs. Arkansas is open. That's not a horrible job. People have won there before. They're going to need a new coach. Virginia Tech is open. They've won before. That's not a horrible job. So, there's going to be some FCS coaches that are going to get their big break. There's going to be some non-Power 4 guys that are going to get their big break. But for those big guys, do you take a chance on a non-Power 4? Do you take a look at who's winning in the Power 4 and try to go after one of those? Like you said, we've talked about it before. I think Campbell at Iowa State is going to be in the mix for some of these jobs. I think Rule at Nebraska might be in the mix. I know he kind of poo-pooed the Penn State talk. I don't buy that for a second. Once the final gun happens on that season, if there's a potential there, look, you got to know he's going to be in play, and you got to know that Penn State might have deeper pockets than Nebraska.
Yeah. And a big part of this that we haven't discussed is a change in the rules that with the transfer portal being where it is, for these schools, it's very dangerous to try to do something in December and make your switch then. You almost need to be ahead of the game. And as soon as you play your last season, you grab your, which is why James Franklin's so attractive for all these coaches. You wonder if maybe Florida had some, listen, and it's third party conversations are happening right now. As you're listening to us right now, they're happening via text, via calls. So the coaches can, if you're Matt Rule's agent, you're James Franklin's agent, you can say whatever the coach can say what they want to say. The agents are the one having the conversation. And so maybe with Florida, you just don't know. They worked out some kind of deal to grab James Franklin, who's going to be the number one coach in everybody's list. You have to make a call to James Franklin. The guy won 2/3 of his games at Penn State. And as we heard before from our friend Mike Rose last week, Penn State was one of the 10 worst coaching jobs in college football when Franklin took over, coming off the Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky scandal. So, you've got to have that guy in place to hit the ground running recruiting wise, and to keep your players who can hit the transfer portal right away because they just lost their coach.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of these jobs come fill up because guess what? First week of December is the first signing day for seniors.
Right.
It's not in February anymore. It's in December. So if you've got a class that you're trying to hold together, you better have a coach before it gets to signing day because those kids are going to go, I don't know who you're hiring. Yeah, I know I committed. I'm out of here. I can wait till February. I'll see if you get somebody I like maybe. But in the meantime, they're listening to the Ohio States and they're listening to the Texases and they're listening to the Georgias going, hey, our coach ain't going nowhere. He's got a track record of getting people to the pros. You want a shot at the pros? Come here. We got a fit for you. Hey, a lot of that stuff is going on right now.
Exactly. And listen, we know that we've seen coaches before leave before the bowl game. The bowl games are not what they used to be. If you're not in the playoff, you're fair game. And if you're a guy like a Matt Rule, you're not going to the playoff. Chances are it's a very slim chance Nebraska winds up in the playoff. It could still happen, but it's a slim chance after their loss to Minnesota. So yeah, what happens next? It's going to be it's crazy to see it, and it's the thing. It's the one piece of the new world of college football that I don't like, because not even percentage wise. We said now 9-10 coaches now from Division I have lost their jobs.
Yeah,
130 roughly. And you've had one in the NFL, I think, right? Just he's only one, right? So, you've almost surpassed the NFL at this point.
Yeah, you've become more like the NFL than the NFL is like the NFL. And we haven't even talked about, is Brian Kelly's seat safe down in LSU after that loss this weekend? Look, I was reading a bunch of things online. There are some LSU boosters that will go and drill 2 new oil wells if they have to get him out of town as fast as they can. So it's going to be crazy. The next 6 weeks, coaching wise, that's going to dominate some of the news cycles coming up here and take away a little bit from what's happening on the field, which is a great season in college football.
Yeah, it really is. And it's too bad that's the case. We were talking off air about Kentucky and the job of Mark Stoops. And again, in terms of the fans wanting him out, this may not be the year to kick Mark Stoops out, just because, again, who are you going to bring in with all the other the programs out there that are stronger programs? Look, Kentucky's, they've got deep boosters, but they're a basketball school, right? That's the argument. Back-to-back losing seasons for Kentucky last year and this year. We talk about they lose Vince Merrill, who is the assistant head coach. He goes to Louisville on like a GM role, the rival just up the road. Vince was the kind of the backbone, the personality of this team, right? Guys kind of gravitated around him. He's larger than life. He was always at charity events and would always make sure he wrote a $5,000-$10,000 check for whatever charity. He was that kind of guy. It was always buying drinks for people, that kind of thing, paying for their dinners, just randomly out and about. He's the kind of personality people are drawn to, and he's no longer part of this Kentucky program. And I'll be honest with you, it feels like this program's lost something. And it's not often you can say that about a college football program when they lose an assistant coach, that the personality changes. That's happened at Kentucky. If I'm UK and I have nothing to do with UK, I have no say over what they do. I would try to find a way, not save a few million, keep Stoop around for another year, unless he just leaves on his own, and don't join in this right now, because the top 6 candidates out there are already off the table if you're Kentucky before you get to the table to get your meal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would not be wise to be. You don't want to be one of the schools that has to take some leftovers,
right,
to get that. If you're Virginia Tech, you're working hard behind the scenes now to get one of these guys. You want to get that hiring done. You want to see if you can grab somebody or persuade somebody to leave their team. Obviously, you're not getting anybody who still has college playoff hopes to leave. Right. I don't think. That'll be the next phase of where this goes. If you get a coach who's like potentially college playoff bound, and it leaks out that maybe he's got a side deal after the season ends, oh man, you talk about some fans that would be in an uproar. Woo.
Yeah. Another possible opening we didn't talk about, Auburn is one. They just, 0-4 start again in the SEC. Missouri goes in, gets that win in overtime, and you kind of feel like Hugh Freeze. Not freezing at all down there. Hot seat down there in the plains. All right. More to come. We'll talk about, we'll ask our friend coming up next here what he thinks about his guy in terms of down at Georgia Tech and what they've done right now. Chad Bishop of the AJC joining us next about the undefeated Yellow Jackets right here on the Sports IQ.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
College football, and you can argue the biggest story here this season has been Georgia Tech, now up to number 7 in the rankings, undefeated, big win over Duke and a couple of teams undefeated in the ACC. And all of a sudden, guess who was sitting on top of the Atlantic Coast Conference? Yes, the Yellow Jackets, the Ramblin' Wreck, baby. Chad Bishop from the AJC joins us once again to talk about Georgia Tech. Chad, we were talking back before the season, and look, coming off the win last year, or the winning season last year, getting to a bowl game. Obviously every August there's hope, right? There's optimism. Mm-hmm. What has taken place in these past couple of months with this Georgia Tech program?
Man, yeah, that's a great question. It is just all come together, right? The stars have aligned. I mean, I like to your point, everybody around Atlanta sort of knew Tech had a chance to be pretty good. Haynes King coming back for year 3, Brent Key coming back for year 3. Most of his staff was intact. A lot of skill position talent on offense, and really a lot of guys returning on defense too. But to be 7-0 and 4-0 in the ACC, to be ranked 7, I mean, let's be honest. Even if you went in that locker room and asked those guys if they expected that, I think if you put a lie detector to them, there's no way, right? Like, I mean, but props to them for getting it done. I mean, week in and week out, they find ways to win, whether it's down 10-7 at Duke this past Saturday in the third quarter, whether it's, down 20-3 at Wake Forest, whether it's coming back from losing a couple leads against Clemson or turning the ball over 3 times in a row at Colorado. Nothing seems to phase this team. They keep coming at you. They play for 60 minutes, as cliche as it is. And they're really having sort of a dream season right now.
Yeah, they really are. It's one of those that it's so much fun to watch. And I think this is where we've talked, I say it consistently that it's just college football. I think with the expansion, the portal, the NIL, it's just made this such a competitive sport that every single week, even if you have one loss, you're still in it. So there's still, we were looking at the Big Ten schedule this week, like they've got like 6 teams all with 2 losses. They're all like 5-2. Well, they all still mathematically, if they run the table, have a shot at being in the conversation in November. So therefore, every game is important. Yeah. I want to talk about Haynes King a little bit and just what he has done, going from a guy who is known to somebody who really should be a big part of it. He should be in the if not the front runner, he should be a big part of the Heisman conversation right now as we go into November.
Yeah, I was asked about Haynes King Heisman, candidacy recently, and and one of his former assistants at Texas A&M called Haynes King Jimmy Chitwood from the movie Hoosiers. Like how much Jimmy Chitwood meant to that Hoosiers, Hickory basketball team. Haynes King is similar. Like, you take him away from Georgia Tech football, we don't know what you're going to get. He just means so much and embodies everything that Georgia Tech has built. They referred to him as an offensive lineman and a quarterback's body. Just plays with a tremendous will to win, right? And everybody, at this point, it's kind of a tongue in cheek around the program. He's the toughest guy in America. He's the toughest football player ever to play college football. Like, his toughness permeates through that entire locker room. But he's also really talented, right? Like, everybody focuses on his ability to run the ball, which he's outstanding at, but he still ranks among the national leaders in completion percentage. He takes care of the football. He understands defenses. He's done an exceptional job of reading progressions and hitting check downs. I mean, he's just really become more of a complete quarterback. So, yeah, if Tech keeps winning, his numbers are not going to be as gaudy as a lot of Heisman candidates. But if you sort of weigh what he means to a program and a team, he's got to be in that conversation if Tech continues this run.
Yeah, to me, he's somebody, I think, Diego Pavia, if I had a vote for the first two guys right now, I would look at it in terms of, give me guys who this team would not be where they are without that guy.
Right.
And Ty Simpson's having a great year with Alabama, absolutely. Yeah. But you know what? With all due respect to him, Alabama probably would had the same record if somebody else was at quarterback, just because they're a more complete team. And I would say that about Haynes and what he's done. Talk about this game on Saturday, that it feels like that's the one that finally got the nation's attention. This is a game that Duke's a good football team. And this was one that really was, it took them 60 minutes to get this win.
Duke is a really good football team, and I think Georgia Tech understood that going in. Blue Devils had won 3 in a row. They were coming off a bye week. They were scoring almost 43 points a game over that 3-game winning streak, and Tech held them really to 10. I mean, the final score was 18, but that last touchdown came with 73 seconds left. I think Tech relished the ability to go on the road and be termed, an underdog. They were about 3-point underdog at kickoff. And I think they've talked really for the past few weeks about getting everyone's best shot. That once they survive that Wake Forest game in overtime, the understanding of, hey, each week is going to be a dogfight. They have so much respect for Manny Diaz and what he does defensively, right? And I think they knew Darian Mensah was going to get his, and he did. I mean, he threw for 300 yards and a couple of touchdowns. But just the game plan of not breaking, bending on offense, just draining that clock in the second half, doing what they do, wearing down the other team. Really their recipe for success, what has been the last 2-3 years, took Duke's best shot for sure and cleared that next hurdle. So, yeah, I mean, you look forward and now it's all right in front of them. That's probably right on paper their last toughest game. NC State will be tough on the road, and Pittsburgh looks like they're going to be a problem. But going up to Duke and beating a really good Duke team was huge for this Tech program.
No question. Talking with Chad Bishop, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, about this Georgia Tech football team. Again, if you haven't been paying attention, 7-0, and now they're the highest-ranked ACC team, with the shocker that Louisville delivered at Miami Friday night. That we're still like, wow, what? Not sure what happened there. You're right, though. 4 games left this weekend. You've got at home there at Bobby Dodd Stadium against Syracuse. It's and I know you haven't gotten into this week's prep yet. It's just on Monday, but I would love to hear what that locker room is like, that practice field is like after going through this and knowing that, listen, the big bad Hurricanes are now out of the way. You control your own destiny. And if they win out, they'll be in the ACC title game and headed to the playoffs.
There's still plenty of motivation left for Tech, at least this week, honestly, from where I sit and look. One, Tech has won 9 straight games in their home stadium, so they don't want to lose that. Number 2, and these guys are not going to talk publicly about this, but last year, and Georgia Tech fans remember, going up to Syracuse, they had just gotten the top 25. They were, I think, 3-0 going to Syracuse. Fran Brown just sort of went off a little bit about being disrespected by Georgia Tech and Brent Key, and they handled Georgia Tech. So I think a lot of Tech players still remember that game. I'm sure Brent Key will have something to say about it this week, at least privately, probably not to us, but there's, and it's, it's a noon kickoff. They're expecting, if not a sellout crowd, pretty darn close. And they've talked a lot, recently about protecting what they've done and playing like a top 10 team, right? Like it's not just, yay, look at us, we're top, like going out and actually proving to the world that they deserve that. So I think they'll sort of continue that mindset. Again, I go back to that Wake Forest game. They survived that upset bid. I think they understand. And going back to your point with Louisville, I think it helped sitting in a hotel on a Friday night and watching Louisville go down. Like, hey guys, it could just as easily be us. So you better come ready to play. They're getting everybody's best shot. I think they have a good mindset right now.
Yeah, I can't wait for Saturday. Bobby Dodd, one of my favorite places. By the way, anyone listening, if you ever get a chance to go see a football game, college football game, get your way to Bobby Dodd. It just feels very turn of the century right there. Sit on the home side. You can look up and see the skyline, there to the south of you. It's one of the cool things in college sports. We've talked before about the rivalry every year. Last game of the year, taking on Georgia, and if people may not realize, this game, and we talked before, has been moved to the Falcons, to the Dome, Mercedes-Benz Stadium downtown. I think this was supposed to be at Bobby Dodd, right? At Georgia Tech. Is that correct?
Yeah. This season in 25, as the rotation is, it was supposed to be at Bobby Dodd Stadium. For context, Georgia Tech a while back signed, I believe, a 6-game contract with Mercedes-Benz Stadium to play 1 game a season every year, Mercedes-Benz.
Okay.
The last year of that contract is next year. They'll probably play Colorado or Tennessee at Mercedes-Benz. None of that's been finalized. So they looked at the schedule this year. They'd played Clemson there before, probably didn't want to play one of their 8 other ACC matchups there. And they went to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, approached with the idea of moving the clean old-fashioned hate rivalry to Mercedes-Benz. Georgia Tech's going to make $10 million out of this thing. So that's huge in this day of, player revenue payments and NIL money. So that's a big reason why. And then lo and behold, Georgia's 5, Tech is 7. Tech is undefeated. Georgia's got 1 loss. Both teams, as we sit here in October, look like college football playoff teams. That's going to be a huge crowd and a massive showcase for football in the state of Georgia if these teams continue right toward each other on this 2 trains meeting on a crash course. So it's a massive deal in this state. It's going to be a huge atmosphere. And really, I think at the outset, probably a lot of Tech fans disappointed this game won't be at Bobby Dodd. But seeing the financial windfall that the program will gain, seeing the amount of people that will be able to go to this game, I think it's gonna work for all parties involved.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Chad, I think too that considering that the Georgia Tech program has not been on this stage in a while, I see it as a nice regular season tune-up, the finale to get ready for the attention of a conference championship game, and then the attention of being in the playoff, that kind of thing. Because right now, look, if you keep winning, you may get a bye and possibly earn your way into a bye again. If there's a lot of football to be left.
A lot of ifs.
Yeah. So but the thing is, on our seat, we can look ahead. Where coaches don't want to, we can. So we have that license to do so. I want to talk to you about the ACC as well. Is it a blessing or a curse to be in the ACC where if you run the table, great, maybe 1 loss, but a 2-loss ACC team probably is not getting to the playoff. What conversation is going on right now around the league that in terms of that, how the league and how you don't have a lot of great teams kind of maybe hurts everyone down the line?
Yeah, I'm sure Commissioner Jim Phillips is probably in his Charlotte office thinking some of those scenarios. And it was either a week ago or 2 weeks ago, everybody's joking, well, what's the tiebreaker if there's like 4 undefeated teams? Well, my argument is, what's the tiebreaker if there's like 6 1-loss teams or 4 2-loss teams? I mean, Georgia Tech doesn't play Louisville, SMU, Miami. Duke doesn't play some of those. Nobody plays everybody, right? So there's going to have to be some weird scenarios. I mean, you could have I think a few weeks ago, there was talk that there could be an undefeated team who didn't get in the title game if there was some weird tiebreak. I mean, there is certainly a chaos scenario. And I think that the doomsday scenario, right, is you have a couple teams with 2 losses who win the league, and then you got a team with 1 loss who's not making the college football playoff. So I think best case scenario, right, for the league is to see a Georgia Tech go 8-0, a Virginia go 8-0, maybe an SMU go 8-0, to play a 1-loss team in the title game and to get 3 teams in the college football playoff, because there's 4 teams ranked in the top 25 now. It's trending that direction where they could very well have a three-team representative. But again, if these teams start to cannibalize each other, oh, shoot, now maybe only your ACC champion gets in, with as strong as the SEC is, with as strong as the Big Ten is. So there's certainly a million scenarios and permutations we could play out. And we'll just sort of see how this thing trickles. But yeah, I think if you you probably want to root for Georgia Tech or Virginia to keep winning, to be undefeated, to get in that top 10 and be sort of a lock. Mm-hmm. And then maybe you can get a couple more bids when all the dust settles.
But imagine, this is, again, like I said before, this is what makes, I think, today's college football so exciting, that who would have thought 2 months ago, talking about an undefeated in conference, Georgia Tech and Virginia in the ACC title game. You would have said, oh, no, there's no way. Clemson's going to run the table. Or no,
Clemson and Miami and Florida State, right? I mean, but that's, everybody, I think when this all started with the player revenue and NIL, it's like, oh man, it's just going to be Ohio State and Texas and Georgia every year. But look at it, man. It's Indiana, Vanderbilt, and Georgia Tech in the top 10. And it's really sort of even things out, at least in 2025. Who knows what the future holds. But at least there's a look at South Florida, right? I mean, there's so many teams now that have a say and have a chance, and it makes every Saturday so much fun. You never know what you're going to get. Teams are moving up and down, and it's great, man. I love it. And going back to one of your original points, even if Georgia Tech trips up here at this point, right? Like number 7 in the nation, if they all of a sudden 7-1 after Saturday, they still got a great chance. So it makes for a really, really fun 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk to you really quick before I let you go about Coach Key and what he's done here. Okay. There are a lot of openings coming up. Obviously, Florida finally firing Billy Napier. The guy was on the hot seat for 2 years. He finally pulled the trigger. Obviously, Penn State. There's going to be a domino effect with that. Any buzz there in Atlanta about trying to lock in Coach Key, or what are you hearing? His name with any of these openings? Or
I'm sure Georgia Tech will be doing its darndest to make Brent Key happy. He got a 5-year contract extension in December and got a raise in December. But as we've seen, that might not be enough. Look what happened with Kirk Cignetti in Indiana. You mentioned Florida being open, Penn State. What if Auburn comes open? What if a place like South Carolina? I mean, Brent Key's an alum of Georgia Tech. He loves Atlanta. He loves Tech with all his heart. But money talks. It talks to all of us. He was very open recently about, he talked to his team about the transfer portal. They have to do what's best for their family. And if that means playing somewhere else, so be it. And he said if the time comes where his name is out there and, his team wants to talk to him about why he's getting considered for job A, B, or C, they'll have those discussions. So he's very transparent and very open with his locker room. But I think Tech, they've shown investment. They have a new building at Bobby Dodd Stadium going up the Fanning Center. They're starting renovations on the bleachers and chairback seats and the club level, suite level boxes in Bobby Dodd Stadium coming up. They've increased their athletic budget by almost $20 million last year. They're going to try their best to keep Brent Key. I'm pretty confident in saying that with new athletic director Ryan Alpert. Would I be shocked if Brent Key were to take something else? Absolutely, but never say never. This has happened throughout the history of college football. Coaches just when you think they're not going anywhere, all of a sudden they're out the door. So we'll see what the silly season has to hold and see what 2026 looks like, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or who knows? He sticks around and we've got a new wave of, like we were talking before, Kurt Cignetti, before he signed his extension. Yeah. Dude, after you just beat Oregon, they're commissioning a statue after you and probably going to name a statue after you. So, you could build something in Indiana that's never been done before. He's doing that. Obviously, Georgia Tech, fantastic football history, title in 90 with Bobby Ross. He could usher in the next era. Could be that guy. And so who knows? Maybe he stays. But hey, we've taken a lot of your time, Chad. Always appreciate your insights. Listen, enjoy this ride, man. We'll be calling because we believe in the Yellow Jackets. Think they're going to be there in the end, and we'll be knocking on your door again to talk about them.
All right, guys. Thanks.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Chad Bishop, once again, he covers at Georgia Tech for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And friend of the show, always appreciate his time here. It is Tech taking on Syracuse this weekend. That game on ESPN there from Atlanta. All right, we've got more Sports IQ on the way. Keep it here. Sad news out of the football world that we haven't talked about yet. Doug Martin, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back, died this weekend at age 36. I got a call personally from a friend of mine who was a star All-American player back in the 80s, played in the NFL, and actually was at a facility with Doug. I don't want to share too much because I don't want to give away anything with Doug's situation. I didn't know him personally. I don't know his family. The cause of death has not been talked about. Although people will speculate and we go from there. We know how some of these things have gone. But to be 36 years old and to lose your life this early just should not happen. And this gentleman reached out to me, again, a former star player, All-American. Boy, we spent some time on the phone just talking and praying over his own situation. He spent some time with Doug recently, and I'm gonna have more conversations with him. And as those conversations continue, as those develop, I'll come back and share more with you. My point of saying all this is this. Look, sports should be fun, right? We enjoy the camaraderie that it brings. We enjoy the competition. We enjoy rooting on our heroes. But these men and women are still human when they step off the playing field and the courts. And so we should keep that in mind, that the what they're doing to glorify us on Saturdays and Sundays, there's a personal price that they pay. And it often comes up much later once they are far away from the spotlight. We need to keep that in mind. So our prayers go out to the family of Doug Martin. And again, we'll continue this conversation. On a lighter note, let's get to college football here from this past weekend and look ahead. Tony, there are two teams right now that I am rooting for all the way because I love me the underdog. Obviously, Georgia Tech, we just talked about, and Vanderbilt. What a clutch win at home. I'm a fan of Diego Pavias. I just think he's just a guy. He's like a Johnny Manziel without the flash. He just goes and just does it.
Yeah, he gets the job done every time his team needs him. And, credit to him and credit to Vandy to bringing him in through the transfer portal and finding this way to make it all work. Give Clark Lee some credit down there at Vandy. He is building a very nice program, that a lot of people didn't expect. You're looking at a lot of things for some of these surprise teams. Look, the Heisman Trophy winner may be playing for Georgia Tech. I love how you and Chad talked about it just the segment before, because that kid means more to that team than any player in America. I don't care hands down about stats, but if you take Haynes King off Georgia Tech, I would bet every penny I've ever made, every penny I've ever saved, that there's no way they're 7-0 right now.
Completely agree. Great performance as well by Arizona State's Sam Levitt, the sophomore. Texas Tech was winning big. And boy, clock management in this one. Texas Tech, they give up the lead in the fourth quarter, but they throw a pass into the end zone on the first play after the 2-minute warning, the 2-minute timeout. They score the touchdown, but you leave $1:55 on the clock for Arizona State to come back down, score the go-ahead touchdown, and then their defense held the Red Raiders and forced them into their first loss. Of course, their starting quarterback was out. Again, quarterback play. But Levitt, just huge win for Arizona State. And the Sun Devils now, last year's Big 12 champs, back in the top 25.
Yeah, and the Big 12 is an interesting conference race. Nobody's really talking about BYU right now.
Yeah.
Quietly, BYU's getting it done week after week, climbing up. I think they just made the top 10 this week. If I read it correctly, nobody's talking about them. Nobody's keeping tabs on BYU, but that's a team that can score some points. They play good defense. They got a lot of people, a lot of seniors on that team and a lot of kids who have come off missions that are a little older. So having that extra age helps them. They're not quite as immature as some other teams. Let's not count out some teams in the Big 12 from doing what Arizona State did last year and surprising some teams when you get to the playoff. It'll be interesting to see how many they can get in to the playoff.
Yeah, totally agree. BYU 10th in the coaches. They're 11th in the AP, right behind Vanderbilt. So looking ahead to this weekend now, big matchup by a couple of teams. And again, now it gets to the point where you're getting some teams with one loss. You can't afford two losses in conference. A crucial game this weekend, Ole Miss at Oklahoma, both with one loss in SEC play.
Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting one. Can Ole Miss regroup after losing to Georgia? Look, there's no shame in losing to Georgia, right? That's a great team. They've got to come back, rebound, get that mindset going. There may be some rumors starting to swirl around Lane Kiffin. Is that a distraction for Ole Miss? We're going to find out in the next couple of weeks if that is, in fact, the case. And Oklahoma needs a win. Just, again, keep that momentum building towards a potential college football playoff. There's a lot of teams that have 0 or 1 losses still. So if you're now in that 2 or 3 category, your chances get slimmer and slimmer of making that playoff field.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk more college football here later this week. Another big one is 10th ranked Vanderbilt at home against Missouri. Can the Commodores do it again? two programs. By the way, be hard to tell their fans apart, kind of the same color scheme, but that's a big game in Nashville coming up this Saturday. We'll talk more about that here later on this week, as again, it is college football final weekend in October, and it is as thrilling as ever. And again, which coach is fired this weekend? Stay tuned. Our moment of awe is up next.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
Time now for a moment of awe. And boy, this was crazy this weekend. Curry College up in Massachusetts. Monty Quinn is just simply amazing. He's a Division III player, Curry College. NCAA record, 522 yards on 20 carries. Oh, by the way, also had 7 touchdowns. If you're doing the math, or if you don't want to do the math, if you're driving or something, that's okay. 26 yards per carry. Monty Quinn is his name. Curry College, just incredible. It's a record for all divisions, NCAA. What he has, by the way, this season, you'd think he does this all the time. He doesn't. 1,450 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns this season. He's topped at least 110 yards in all 6 of his games, over 203 times. But again, the big one, 522 yards. We are in awe of Monty Quinn. Hey, we appreciate our guest, Chad Bishop, stopping by. I appreciate you as well. We'll do it again tomorrow on Tuesday. It's a Sports IQ. We'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.